Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Sunday evening update on this Sunday, January 31st. Of course, this is the show where you can get all your news and views from researchers and life extension advocates from around the world. Yes, broadcasting from the home office of the Immortality Institute here in Little Wausau, Wisconsin. Thanks to the magic of Ustream and the internet, of course, we could broadcast from anywhere in the world, including my humble little office, from which we have interviewed many famous people throughout the last couple of years. And tonight we have another great guest, Jason Silva from Current TV. I know many of you are familiar with him. That will be coming up in just a minute. I want to remind everyone who's tuning in right now that you can participate in the interview process as well. You know, I've got a bunch of good questions together. However, I haven't thought of everything, and you might hear our guest tonight say something, mention something that piques your interest. If you have a question, be sure to check out the chat. I typically am monitoring it throughout the show. So if you do have some questions, I'll pause and ask your question. I'll continue to monitor the chat box. Okay. Also, don't forget, after the interview, that we'll have some news and announcements from the Immortality Institute, from Life Extension News that has occurred in the past week. Any updates on any initiatives that are going on. So stay tuned for that. And after the show recording is done, sometimes I hang around, you know, we have a little fun chatting after the show is done. We call it the show after the show sometimes. You never know what's going to happen and who's here in the guest list that we can talk with during the evening. So that is the Sunday evening update, and without further ado, I want to introduce our guest for tonight, Jason Silva, a producer and host, and I'm sure soon to be pop icon from Current TV. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you very much. How are you, Justin?
Well, everything is going wonderfully on this Sunday evening, and I want to start out with our guest here, Jason Silva, with the question about their audience's main familiarity with you and your work, and that is the short film, The Immortalist. Many people have watched that. It's a YouTube sensation, of course. I want to know, how did you get interested in the subject? How did you first come up with the idea to make a short film about radical life extension, about immortality?
Yeah, well, I think I've always had a sort of, I've always had this point of view that, like, technology is the means by which humans overcome limitations, and I think that when I discovered Ray Kurzweil's writings, and he spoke about technology as extending our reach, I sort of extended that metaphor to everything. I'm like, well, yeah, technology helps us overcome problems. It helps us live longer. It helps us cure diseases and ailments. It really does extend our reach. It helps us communicate with one another instantaneously all over the world. And so for me, it was like, wow, this is all grand and it's wonderful. And almost, it's a very sort of romantic phenomenon, this idea of man harboring technology and using it to extend his reach. But I sort of had this idea that no matter, in spite of this reality, you know, mankind still, you know, we still die. And I was always kind of troubled by this. You know, as a philosophy student in college, I was always obsessed with this idea of mortality. I had this kind of Woody Allen-esque point of view on it, where it was kind of like, you know, your art can't save you, and I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it by not dying.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I always had the philosophical leanings were there. And then when I was working for Current, and I had this sort of amazing opportunity on my plate to sort of investigate and study and celebrate big ideas, and all these doors were open to me. So if I wanted to meet somebody that I found fascinating, I could actually reach out. I could say, yes, I work for Current, I work for Al Gore's TV network, I want to talk to you about these ideas. And primarily I wanted to meet Ray Kurzweil, and then I sort of filled in the rest of the interviews for the short with people like Michael West and others. And it was a remarkable experience. And then I decided to put it on YouTube because, you know, a lot of people may not be subscribed to Current TV, and I wanted to make the message available to as many people as possible. So that was the impetus.
Okay, I see. And then what kind of feedback did you get from, what's the most surprising feedback that you got from the short film, The Immortalist?
Well, for me, the film, I definitely wanted it to to be sort of the meeting place between an art film and a science film. And the reason for that is that I think that people respond more to emotional experiences than they do just to data-driven facts. And so while I think that science is wonderful and it's the engine of our society, I think that science needs to be presented to the world in the form of art. I think we need to tell better stories. And so the feedback, so when I made the film, obviously, I wanted it to be part poem, part, scientific, exploratory journey. And so the feedback that I got from some people was, you need to make it more journalistic. And I was like, well, that was not my point. What I wanted to do is I wanted to write a poem visually. And if you're interested, you can always go research more of the science. But first of all, I wanted to give you an emotional experience. I wanted you to know how I related to these ideas and why they were important to me. Because it is because of these emotional reasons that I'm even interested in life extension. Why do we want to live more? If not to love more and to learn more and to have more aesthetically important,
Sure.
emotional experiences. And so yeah, but other people really loved the film and encouraged me to put it on YouTube, and it did actually get me a lot of great press.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and then around, I mean, you brought up this subject. You did a very good job on that short film, and of course, some many other productions that you've done, high quality. And you're well known around current TV, and you live out in Hollywood now. Around, say, some of the bigger media people, A-listers, Hollywood stars. This is one of the questions from our audience from earlier when we were kind of getting ready for the show tonight. What is the perception right now of radical life extension from what you've seen, the people that you've met or interviewed? I'm not talking about Ray Kurzweil or Michael West. I'm talking about some of the, the Hollywood stars that people think of, the A-listers. And I know that you kind of, get around, hobnob with, some of the people out there in Hollywood. What's the current perception?
Well, it's interesting because I think that there's no doubt that Hollywood is the land where people are the music makers and the dreamers of dreams. So I'm sure that these people would embrace life extension. I think that you can see that conversation about technology and its implications happening in Hollywood films. You have Surrogates, you have Avatar. This is, I think, how Hollywood responds to science and technology. I think recently it was interesting to see some top Hollywood producers getting excited about the film Transcendent Man, which Barry Ptolemy directed about Ray Kurzweil, and the film was premiered at AFI, and we co-hosted an after party, and it was definitely full of some genuine Hollywood producers. I know that they had invited J.J. Abrams. I'm not sure if he came, but he was on the invite list, and some other people that are big players. So I think people excited about the implications. I think you'll start to see a lot more screenplays come out in Hollywood about life extension and mind uploading and all these Kurzweilian ideas. Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has been a theme in some recent movies. You mentioned a couple of their Surrogates and, of course, Avatar. And then you also mentioned, of course, Transcendent Man. And I've been waiting. I know many people have been waiting to see if it is going to become a theatrical release. I mean, it's been at a couple of film festivals so far, but it seems I'm kind of getting resigned to the fact that I'm going to have to wait till it comes out on the History Channel or cable or DVD, something like that. Have you heard any word if it is going to be carried by any theater chains across the nation?
Right, yeah. I don't have specific information on that, but I do hear a lot of people talking about the film. In fact, LA Confidential magazine this month had an article where the director of the film and I are actually talking about the singularity and the film. And that came out this month in Los Angeles Confidential magazine. So that's pretty good to have a story about Transcendent Man and the singularity in such a glitzy and glamorous Hollywood magazine.
All right. Well, that still gives me hope then that maybe I'd be able to go see it in the theater. When what would really interest me is to see the reactions of people within the theater. Now, you maybe have seen some of those reactions from people when you attended the after party from the screening at the film festival there in L.A. But that's what would really interest me.